Hi guys, hope you're well. So guess what today is? It's new guitar day! Now I've been waiting for this guitar for what feels like an age, but it's probably only been about a week. So you're probably picking up on the vibe that I bought this online, and you would be right. I know everybody says do not buy a guitar online without playing it first, but let me let you into a secret. Pretty much everybody out there is doing exactly that. And the main reason is you can get great deals online. I took a really long time trying to find this guitar. I've been around the block a few times. I've bought and sold a lot of guitars over the last 20-25 years. What we're looking at today is a super cheap Strat, totally unbranded. And I took a bit of a risk on this guitar, but I knew what I was looking for, and so I think we better have a look and dive right in. Now what I was looking for in this guitar was a stratocaster with a dark fretboard, as dark as I could find, and I didn't want to pay a lot of money because the whole point is that we are going to work together on this channel to modify this guitar. I am completely open to the fact that this guitar could be a dog. There, I said it. It could be absolutely awful, and I'm prepared for that. I didn't want to buy a super high-end, high-value guitar. I was really looking for a guitar I could put my own personal stamp onto. I'm open to suggestions from you guys on what we can do with this guitar. So without further ado, let's have a look at what we've got here. Now one thing I found pretty interesting with this guitar as soon as it arrived was that it arrived in a Harley Benton box. Now I know that the guitar inside is not a Harley Benton. I bought it completely unbranded, so I don't know what we're going to find inside, but let's find out. So inside, looks like they included a guitar strap. This is where it hopefully doesn't snap in half. Oh, okay, there's a bag with the tremolo arm and a guitar cable. Super cheap cable there, but hey, that's always a bonus when that arrives. And unbelievably, a guitar tuner has come with the guitar as well. The fact again that it's in here is just a bonus. Now let's have a look at the actual guitar. This is what we're all here for. Packaging, just a single sheet of bubble wrap. Now that looks pretty bright straight away. That's a pretty bright colour. Now, I'm going to fill you in on what I've been looking for. A couple of years ago, I had a Seafoam Strat guitar, and I loved every minute of it. It was beautiful, but after a while, I kind of moved off single coils and I started playing P90s and humbuckers. You know, as my tastes develop and change, I tend to go with different guitars. And I ended up leaving my Seafoam Strat, my Fender Seafoam Strat, in the corner, and it never really got played. And so, because I tend to have instruments that I use a lot for recording and writing music on, if my instruments sit in the corner gathering dust, I tend to sell them on to someone who'll get some use out of them. But ever since then, I've really regretted selling it. I think a Seafoam Strat is one of my favourite guitars in the world. I'm really pleased to see that the brown paper string wrap is in place. A lot of manufacturers do this now just to keep the moisture off the strings. Now, in most cases, the strings on a brand new guitar, they're going to be super low end, super budget, and they are worth replacing straight away. Exactly what you want to see when you buy a new guitar. And you can see that the pickups still have the plastic sheets over them, which you get on very, very new guitars. Now, one of the things I was looking for when I bought this guitar was a Seafoam guitar. I would say this is more like a sort of Daphne blue Seafoam. It's kind of weird. It looks kind of blue but also kind of Seafoam, but I'm liking it. We're going to measure the body width. The super cheap low-end Squier guitars these days go down to 41 and 42 millimeters deep. And so I hope it's not as thin as that. It doesn't seem to be as thin as that. This seems to be maybe 43, 44 just looking at it. I just know that from experience. The pots feel really nice, really fast and smooth. A little bit of resistance, but nothing too bad. Sometimes they can be really hard to rotate. I've had them on American CTS pots before. You stick a set of really high quality American CTS pots in, it's really hard and it can hurt your hand, and particularly if you're playing quickly, you can't roll the volume or the tone pots quickly because you just can't get enough purchase on them to do that. They feel really nice. I'm guessing what's inside here is going to be absolute cheap low-end stuff, which we may replace all of the internals for this, but we'll find out. Now, as I was saying about the strings, these are going to be, they feel thin, they're probably 8s, they might be 9s. I think commonly that guitars like this, Strats, are shipped with 9s. I normally play 11s and 12s, so I usually play Ernie balls, not even slinkies they're called, or I play power slinkies, I think they're the 11s. So as you can see, the body is in really great shape. And one of the things I was looking for with this guitar is the Fender shaped headstock. I know there were lots of guitars out there that have slightly weird, different headstocks, but to my eyes, something I've grown up with playing Fender guitars most of my life. I'm just loving this shape, I always have. I also prefer the small fin versus the larger 70s Fender fin. So I was really looking for this shape headstock. I know it's an unbranded guitar, but I plan probably to stick a Fender logo on there at some point. You'll notice in the background there that that's a Revelation RJT. I'm not a big fan of that headstock shape. I love the guitar and we'll review that in another video. But the headstock shape for me, I know there's copyright issues and that's why they do it. They do it so they can stand out and try and be original and put their own look into a guitar. But for me, it's always about that headstock shape. So what I was looking for in this guitar is a very, very dark fretboard. I've always been a maple neck guy. You can see there on my Relic Telecaster Standard. I love one maple necks. They're my favourites. I've had maple necks on the go constantly since I first began playing. Occasionally I've found myself playing guitars with rosewood or ebony fretboards, and I've kind of liked them, but they've always been a bit darker, and personally being a person who writes a lot of music, I tend to find just naturally that I'm more creative on a maple fretboard. But in the last couple of years, I've started to notice that I've really enjoyed playing really dark fretboards. They just look fantastic with the Seafoam as well. So when I purchased this guitar, I'd spent a good few months looking for something in this colourway, and this came up for an unbelievably cheap price. And I'm talking ludicrously cheap. I bought this guitar, and it seems the strap and the tuner and the cable for £60 UK pounds. Now this is a brand new guitar from a guitar retailer. They actually listed this on eBay. Brand new guitar, unbranded, but they'd put it to run out, the auction to run out in the middle of the day when people are at work. So I watched it and there were no bids on it. And I think I was the only person to put a bid on it. And I won it for exactly what they started the auction at. I couldn't believe it. The postage was free. So I thought it's worth the risk. Now I'm not saying that you guys out there should go off and buy £60 or $70 guitars, because you're probably not going to get a great deal. You're probably going to get something that needs a lot of spending on it to create a really usable instrument. But that's something I'm okay with. I actually love doing guitar electronics. I have like a kit bag full of old gadgets and stuff that I've accumulated over the years. I can stick new pots, new hardware into this guitar, and that's what we're going to do with this. I think we're going to have a good look inside it, take it all to pieces. I'm going to show you what's going on with this guitar internally as well as externally. And we're going to do a lot of work to this, I think. Right off the bat though, my first impression is I'm really happy with this guitar. It's always a risk when you buy something online. If you expect to buy a guitar for cheap, receive it from the postman, plug it in and play a gig, chances are that's not going to happen. There's a pretty high probability that you're going to have to mess with the action, the intonation, you might have to mess with the nut, things might not be adjusted correctly in terms of the pickup angle. You never know what's going to happen. We won't know how this sounds until I plug it in, which I'll do for you guys in a moment. But right now, this guitar is feeling good. The neck feels fantastic. It's actually got rolled edges, which is insane. Obviously, it's unbranded. There's no neck plate name. I guess if we go for a proper Relic on this, that might look pretty cool. But up to now, obviously the neck is way too light for a vintage guitar. That would have to be sanded back. Feels great. It's a C profile neck. It obviously has a, I'm guessing plastic or nylon usually, nut, which looks very neat. And the string height, I'm just checking for the string height on the nut, is actually really good. This may have been set up by somebody at some point. It's a fraction high, but this is perfectly playable. That action on the nut there is fantastic. I've had guitars with bone nuts that cost thousands that came with terrible string height action there. You could get a credit card underneath it and it was really terrible. That's about right. That's about 3 cigarette papers you could get under there. So I'd go down to maybe 2 cigarette papers, but I'm pretty happy with that. The tuners is another area that people tend to swap out for some higher quality tuners. We might do that, but for now we need to play this guitar, we need to understand what it's all about. I do really like that style of tuner, but right now I'm pretty happy with this guitar. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to have a play. Okay, see you a second. Alright, so guys, what are my final conclusions on this guitar? Well, so far I'm quite impressed. The sound from the pickups is absolutely fantastic. I'm really shocked to be saying that. I did not expect to hear such clarity coming out of these. These will be stock Chinese pickups. We're going to find out a little bit more about them in a moment when we remove the pick guard. One thing to note also is that the tail is flat against the body. So I didn't really experiment with the tremolo arm. I don't usually play with the tremolo arm anyway. I always hardtail every guitar that has a trem in it. The good thing about a hardtail bridge is that if you snap a string, the guitar never goes out of tune. If the bridge is floating, like in most tremolos that allow both the dive and the lift, if you snap a string, the tension on the whole bridge alters, which throws all the other 5 strings out of tune instantly. If you're playing live, that's a really bad thing. I really love the soft kind of feel, the flat feel of a Fender style bridge, but I will be hardtailing this guitar. So another thing we could probably consider is switching this bridge out. Because it's effectively going to be a hardtail, the quality of the block in the back of the guitar, the quality of that is not really incredibly important. If you have a tremolo that floats, then yes, the strings anchor at the back of that trem block. So the thicker, the heavier the mass of that trem block, the better sustain that will give you overall. But if you're hardtailing, all the string vibration and energy goes through the bridge into the body. into the wooden blocks, which I'll show you how to do that in another episode. That basically makes the whole thing one solid unit. So all that string vibration goes into the body of the guitar and you get the resonance of the wood of the guitar. What we're going to check first is the body width. There's a few different places you can do this, and that's measuring 43 millimeters. If you can see that, guys, that's measuring 43 millimeters, and that's 42. So let's now take a look at this nut. That's 42. And I've got to say, the sound, having played a lot of strats over the years, the sound out of this is pretty good. We can improve it, but it is pretty good. I'd say about a 7 out of 10 on my own personal feel and judgment. Of course, I hate the sloppy strings, the spaghetti strings, they're too thin. The bridge needs setting up, the intonation is all over the place. But it didn't do too badly, and I'm pretty happy with that. So, with the tuners, let's see what the ratio is of these things. So that string ratio is 18:1. Took me 18 turns of the tuning peg to get one full rotation on the machine head there. So let's have a look inside this guitar. Okay guys, so we're back. All of the screws are now out of the pickguard or the scratch plate, whichever you prefer to call it. Worth noting, it's got 11 screws in it, which is the same as most Fenders, most Squiers. You can get that pretty standard. I think they come in 9 or 11s. So some of the old vintage ones only had 9, but mostly you'll find 11s. So moment of truth, let's have a look underneath this pickguard and see what we've got. This is kind of like reminding me of when I was a kid and I would look inside the guitars. Let's see what we've got. Should be connected here, possibly connected obviously with a short cable, so you want to be careful as you're removing this not to wrench anything too hard. There we go. Let me keep this visible for you guys. So that's a pretty short ground lead, as I thought. I'm not gonna strain the cables too much. What's interesting is that the paint's pretty good. The routing looks fantastic. Really good, in fact. Very, very impressed with that. They are, of course, ceramic pickups, which I'm really happy with. A lot of people get things completely confused, claiming that ceramic pickups are cheap and nasty and sound too shrill, too harsh, when in actual fact that's completely false. And that's not the case at all. Actually, they're a slight bit darker and a bit fatter than Alnico 5s or Alnico 4 magnets in single coils. I have no problem with pickups like this, with the bar magnets on the back. The ceramic magnets are usually very reliable, very warm, and they're very good and cheap. So they sound good for the price. Pretty standard looking stuff in there, exactly what you'd expect to see. The pots are tiny, but again the only difference between these pots and CTS pots are that of course they're smaller in size, but these will be manufactured in a place where quality control and the working conditions will be a lot less ideal, shall we say, than in some of the American factories. But I'm always happy with these pots. I've got plenty of CTS stuff. I could switch them all out. I could swap this all over with a Switchcraft, an Oak, Grigsby, pickup selector. We might go the whole hog and do the whole lot, but guys, I'm open to your suggestions. Maybe even go with gold hardware on this. Vintage Relic gold hardware. So thanks for watching, guys. It's been a really fun episode. I've really enjoyed this. Please leave some ideas of what we should do with this guitar. I'm all ears. I'm open to any suggestions. I won't be putting it in the bin. Don't forget to hit the alarm bell so you get a notification every time I upload a video. And see you soon, guys. Have fun. Peace out.